to the very first episode of Fiddly Things. Now, I want to introduce my co-host, Jo Farello. Hi, Jo, from the
Hi, KATRENA. Hello, thank you for having me on today.
Oh, it's going to be cool. And obviously you run Fiddly Things, so that's cool. But I've been a part of it being developed, and so I feel like it's very close to my heart. And I think one of the loveliest things we can do is get and, start a podcast and start to talk about Fiddly Things, because what we find, Jo, don't you reckon, is the one thing people say, what's the word they use more often to us than any other word ever in the history of words?
Overwhelm.
Oh my God.
I'm so overwhelmed. What am I going to do? How am I going to do it?
Yeah. So business owners, small business owners, don't have a lot of staff to delegate to. So they have to do a lot of stuff themselves until the business gets up to a sort of certain level where you can start to hire staff, whether that's full-time or part-time, or hire virtual assistants to do more and more tasks. And that's the one we recommend, because you don't have all the added fat of having a full-time staff there. That some businesses, we understand, need it, but for us, we're really wanting to save people time and money and do everything virtually. So you'll learn about Fiddly Things and what we're capable of doing over the course of this podcast. But today we want to absolutely focus on the psychological impact of overwhelm. And we've all been there, we've done it, we've had it, we've said it, we've seen it in our friends, our family, we've seen it in our other entrepreneur communities. It is rife. It's like the number one dis-ease in the business community, this bloody thing called overwhelm. So, Jo, what have you got for us today? You want to take us through a list of things that you think is really the hot spots for overwhelm?
Yeah, KATRENA, I think there's some key points that from my own experience, and I've also seen for other friends and business people, the overwhelm can be simple things like your inbox of your email, for example. A simple thing, people are communicating with you. If you are not managing your inbox, you are losing possibly leads for more business. Communication, even people giving you good feedback on your business, is not being collected, understood, responded to. So for me, the number one is always the inbox, because emails are still at the moment the main communication model that people seem to be working through in business.
Totally agree with you. When I'm out training small business people, one of the things I talk about is the inbox being a reflection of your mind. So when I try to name and shame in the room, so I start to do like an auction, and I ask people how many emails have they got in their inbox, and people go 500, and I go, okay, 500, okay, so we haven't got any more on 500, 1,000, okay, 1,000 over there, I got 20,000, okay, 20,000, oh my God, 50,000, oh my God, okay, if anyone make 50,000, 50,000, 76,000, okay, we've got 76,000. Sold for the 76,000. And so everyone starts to realize that lots of people in the room are in the same boat and have lots of emails. To me, 500 is too many already. So once you get up into 76,000, you're talking extreme overwhelm. And what I like to point out to people, because it's a reflection of your mind, is for every email that sits in your inbox, there is a tiny ball of energy reserved in your brain for that email. Now, the unconscious mind knows it's there. And so imagine if I was able to tidy up your inbox, get rid of those 76,000 or however many's there, file it all away, the unconscious mind can release those little tiny balls of energy and give that back to you. We call that headspace. You've got space to think again. And so it's like if you've ever decluttered your home, you know, when people come in and do a bit of a spring clean, you clean out all the drawers, how do you feel? You feel fantastic. So exactly the same feeling, this wonderful feeling of space and relaxation and peace comes over you when you clean up your inbox. So, Joe, I highly recommend from a psychological perspective, we get our inbox into shape. So, Joe, have you got any tips? What's your top 3 tips? And then I'll share my top 3 tips for getting the inbox sorted out. What do you reckon?
Yeah, great analogy, Katrina. I love that with the energy, because it is. Once you know that email's been addressed, you have more space to deal with what's coming up on the next one. And for me, the 3 things, I guess, that I find is I like to categorize emails straight up into high, medium, and low priority. That way I can deal with the high ones that need to be responded to right now. I can do it. The medium, I know I can come back to that, whether it be an hour or 2 or within the day. And the lower priorities, whether I've got another day or to the end of the week to deal with. Setting up things like labels, subfolders, and allowing things like periodicals, newsletters to come in and automatically go into a subfolder of the inbox will then allow the person's eye to gaze down and see what they can then deal with in the time that they might have in their day or their week. So I think some of the other things is, if I don't have emails that need...
Just let me
sure.
stop you there for 2 secs. Guys, we call that triaging. So
yes.
we want to try and touch things once, ideally, but obviously for these bigger projects, you might have to touch an email a few times before you get the answer you need or the work you need back, and then you can action it. But think of the inbox as a triage, just like at the emergency centre in a hospital. You meet that first nurse and she determines whether it's urgent, whether you can sit in the for a little while in the waiting room, or whether you can just go home. So urgent, medium, not urgent, or however you want to grade them, but there's sort of 3 levels there that Joe's talking about. So triaging is what we call that. So just touch it once, make a determination straight away, and if it can be dealt with there and then obviously do that, and then it's gone. File it away, get rid of it out of your inbox, because that releases that little bit of energy in your head for other things.
Yep, that's true. And I think if people realise that otherwise they can be putting out what we call fires throughout the day. Every email that comes in, you pause what you're doing in your work day, look at your email and try and figure out, what am I doing with that? You're constantly putting out fires. You're never moving forward in your day. So by triaging it, which is a great term, Katrina, I love that, you can quickly decide, yes, right now, I can come back to that and I can deal with that later on.
And you're using colours. You're using colours for that, so we can.
Yep.
You guys don't need to.
Red, orange, red. You know, use your stoplight symbolism if that makes it easier.
Makes total sense, but we won't bog down with the details of how to do that today. But if you do want to know, that's the kind of thing that Joe can teach you on your free discovery call. So you can deal with that sort of technical how to do that later on. But we just want you to realise that you should be looking at something once instead of reading it over and over and over in the day. Because if you added up all the times that you go and look at that email and then come back to it and look at it again and come back to it a week later and go, oh, what's that again? You're wasting about 40% of energy is wasted in a year on doing that. That's why we want you to try and touch things once. Just like a piece of paper should be touched once, an email should be touched once prior to it being actioned at the very least. If in an ideal world, we know that's not always possible, but
and it takes the stress out too, or the anxiety. I know it's there and I've got to keep coming back to it. Can create anxiety in your role, so that while you're trying to do your job, it's constantly pulling you back, which would be the energy again.
Yeah.
The other thing I find is really simple is again the automatic, where things will come in that you've set up rules, what we call rules in email categorizing, so that newsletters and periodicals come through. You don't need to see them in your inbox. They're automatically sent through to your subfolder for you to deal with at a time when you can sit back and calmly read through maybe interesting material as opposed to tasks that need to be actioned or responses that need to be done.
Oh my God, rules are the greatest thing since sliced bread. So Pete, if you don't know what a rule is, get on the phone to Joe, set up your free discovery session. This is a great little tip, a little trick that you can do with all your things, because in a year you'll get tens of thousands of things that you want to have there in a folder somewhere, but you don't really need to have as a distraction. So what we're trying to do is reduce tens of thousands of distractions in a year by emails coming in and automatically going over there, so that it never stops you in your tracks. And so, for example, your statements, your bank statements, they should be set up as a rule, and they just go automatically into your bank statements folder. So if for whatever reason later in the year you suddenly have to prepare your statements or go get them or look up something random, you just go to the folder, find that month that you need, look at it. But apart from that, they're just filing. That's all it is. Also, too, you sign up to all this crap throughout the year. It all comes in, and you suddenly realise you weren't that interested, but you do want to keep receiving the stuff, but you never seem to have time. You do not want to fill up your inbox with all this stuff, because it overwhelms your brain automatically with, I haven't read that, I haven't read that, I haven't read that, I haven't read that. So what we do is we set up a rule for all those subscriptions and all that email junk that you get into the folders, so that when one day you say, oh, I'm ready to focus on membership sites, as an example, all your stuff is filed over there in all those email streams about membership sites, and then you start to read from the bottom up and get educated about that thing, and then that's sort of done. But you don't want that distracting you every day. You're going to get to that when you're ready. You control your inbox. The inbox does not control you.
That's exactly right. You've got to be in control of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the third thing, Katrina, I think is a really helpful point in emails is having form response emails, like little template emails set up. And I don't mean automatically going out so that it looks cookie cutter response, but I mean form emails set up that you then customize quickly to send out to a person. So if you have someone send you an email saying, I've seen your website, I'd like a little bit more information, pull up your form template email. Dear Bob, fantastic, thanks for your contact. The body of it's already set out for you, giving them all the relevant bits they need, and then you can customize the bottom. Have a great weekend, and I look forward to speaking with you next week on the bottom, and off you go. It's a form that takes up the space for you without you having to sit and hand type it all out.
Yeah, so this is very different, guys, from automation inside bigger systems. This is you know, emails that are coming in. And Joe, where do you put them? The templates are sitting in drafts these days. Where do they go?
You can do that. You can actually have a template folder, but drafts I find is great because I can pull it up and I've already got it in the subject line saying response to general query. Then I can customize it and it's already saved in it, but I keep it as a template. It could be someone giving you feedback that you want to respond and say, thank you, I appreciate the feedback, I'm glad you had great service, already set in the body of your email, but you just customize it per that person. And it means that you're not missing anything in your haste. If it's a busy day, you're capturing the key points, but you're customizing it for each person. So can sit in draft as just a template draft.
Yeah, and so Joe, in your experience, how many of these templates do you generally see for each executive person? Are you seeing like 5 are sitting there?
Yeah,
an EA might have 10 or 15. Yeah. A virtual assistant that supports an executive might have more.
It would be dependent on too whether they are, you know, whether it's a service or a product. If there's a product in a wide range, there might be variances to your template depicting whatever their product may be. But yeah, generally 5 to 10 would be something that you would have. and it would be a simple format to customize it with a simple sign off or the first line as a personalization, but you've captured the key content in the body of your template. So simple to do, doesn't take long to set up, and you can change it whenever, you know, the boss might say, oh, we're changing that, I'd like to add this in or that. We now have a new system that you can pop that in there, whether it's a click and pick up, like a lot of things at the moment, or whether it's a send out, then you can customize your templates very easily.
Yeah, you shouldn't be reinventing the wheel. And what we
No.
do when we go in to see a client, particularly Jo, when she's in there and she's looking at your inbox, is the first way to save you lots of time and lots of money, because time is money, is she'll go in and first of all clean out your inbox and show you how to do that, and we'll create a system for you to clean out your inbox quickly and easily, so it's not a laborious one-year project. We've got a system, don't we, Jo? And we might share our little system today. Second of all, we'll set up some very obvious rules so that you're not getting interrupted over and over and over again. And then very quickly, we'll set up maybe 3, 4, or 5 templates in your drafts, ready to go based on what you can see as an obvious low-hanging fruit to start with. And then once you know how to do it, you can be creating these as you go along yourself, saving more and more and more and more and more time as you go. Because look, overwhelm is all about a sense of unease, that you've got so much work to do and not enough time. Whereas what we do is go in and find all the little things that are wasting time for you. And just with what we've discussed today, we believe we can automatically save you about 40% of your energy and time in a year.
Exactly. Just get rid of all your little fiddly things for you.
Yeah. Okay, so while we're on that, Jo, let's give them the trick. Do you want me to give my trick, Jo?
I'd love to. Love you too.
So let's say there's thousands and thousands and thousands of emails there. We're not going to go through each individual email. It just would take too long. So what I do, just to get this show on the road, is I go down and grab whatever the last year was. So we sort it in years, and I go and grab all of that 2005 and put it in a 2005 folder. Boom, over there. And then I work my way up, all the way up to, so 2006 folder, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay, so 2019, it's all over there. So you can find it, search for it, but it's out of your eye shock now. Yeah. So that's the year. Now we're in the current year. Now what I do is I start to work in months. So I go January 2020 and put all January 2020, February 2020, March 2020, and now April 2020. And now we're only sitting with May stuff, whatever the current month is. So now May, I will use that data to set up all your rules, and we start afresh in the current month. What do you think, Jo? Do you think is that good enough? That's
a great idea, yeah, because you're focusing on what's here right now, but you've still got, and you can set time aside to go back and deal with, especially the Aprils, the March, the Feb and Jan for this year, priority. Last year, you can just work out whether there's anything in there, whether there's attachments or whatever I need to keep, but you've got the time to go back through that. But that's fantastic, because then you've got this month right here, right now, with the current periodicals, newsletters, whatever it is that you can start to set your rules up to. And you can get a feel too for what your business is at the moment. Are you getting a lot of inquiries from your website? Are you receiving a lot of referrals from somewhere else? What social media is feeding back in through your email? And you can then start to gauge how I need to set up my next processes in my other areas as well.
Yeah. So once we've got it down to sort of the current time frame, we then start to consciously make folders. Yeah. And the reason we're doing this, a lot of time management trainers will say, don't bother about folders, just keep everything there and search with all your crap there. But we're not doing this as a search function. We're doing this to give the mind space. We're doing this to have it removed from your eyesight. We're doing this to give you energy back. So time management people are quite happy to have 76,000 emails there and you can search for what you want when you want it. We understand that that is one tactic or one strategy, but we're not doing it for that reason. We're doing it for your well-being. We're coming at this from a psychological perspective. So I still have all my folders and I create new folders all the time. And every year I go and do a tidy up of my folders just to see, are those folders still relevant? Could two folders merge together? And I try and keep my folders as minimalistic as possible, so that even that's not overwhelming. And another thing I do, Jo, is when I still want to have the data, I still want to have the folder, but I don't want it in my everyday folder list. What I do is I call it ZZZ and then the name of the folder, and it drops it to the bottom. So I know for my mind, I don't need to go and look at all the ZZZ folders. They're there though, like old customers or whatever, and they're there. But I don't want to get rid of them yet. But often they'll get tidied up at the end of the year, tidy up. So hopefully everyone's got some tips and tricks to take away regarding email. Is there anything else you want to add, Jo, about email?
Look, I think the other point that I like is, let's say you have an email come in that someone said, I'd love to know about such and such. Could you get back to me? You can also do a quick, fantastic, thanks for the contact. I'll get back to you by the end of next week. You can also set up subfolders with time frames, if you like, within a week, if it's something that helps you, which I've found it has at certain times in jobs I've had. And I know that the first week of the month, I'll drop in things that I want to make sure I've addressed by the end of that first week. So for example, for May, I might have 1, 7, 14 on, and just set it up into 4 separate weeks within the month folder. And I know then what's got to be dealt with in what time frame. And people are happy to get the response in the time frame that you said. You didn't say, I'll get back to you by the end of the week, and by the end of the week they're sitting there going, great, couldn't want the business because there's no response. So I find that's another nice little trick, is just you can subdivide your month into a week to make sure that if you've got quite a volume of emails that you're addressing, certain ones within the time frame.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, your inbox should not be your to-do list. It's a real slippery slope when people are using their inbox as their to-do list. So there are other systems that we can introduce you to where you can have a digital to-do list, and there's some amazing products out there like Asana and Trello, great for when you're working in teams and you want to visually see what's going on and what's moving off the to-do list and what's currently being worked on. So that's another day's chit chat about technology available. But I must admit, Jo, and this is a secret that, you know, I wouldn't dare tell my time management experts out there, but in a way, I do use my inbox as a bit of a to-do list because I'm a solopreneur, and what is in my inbox is really what hasn't been actioned yet. Once it's been actioned and it's out of my court, and I've hit the ball out of my court into somebody else's court, it goes into their file and it leaves my inbox. So what causes me overwhelm is if that list of inbox emails gets longer and longer and longer. So I like to try and keep that in under 20 emails.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of the listeners will be going, oh my God, in a perfect world. But actually, it doesn't take long to get to that point. So yeah, Jo, how do you deal with your inbox? What's sort of how do you treat?
Look, and I'm a visual person. So for me, if I open the inbox and there's a lot in there, I will allocate first a point in the morning, very fresh in the morning, come in while it's still early, have a quick jump into the inbox first in the day, quickly go through, categorize what needs to be addressed. I like my week, so I can flick them into, that's got to be done by the end of the week, by the end of the day, whatever, and have it ready to go. I like to see it clean, knowing that what's in there has already been at least looked at. As the day unfolds, I'm busy, I see things coming in. It will be, I'll have the preview pane up so I can see very quickly at a glance, okay, that's a query. Drop it into the query box. I know it's not high or medium, it's a low priority. I can pop it into there. I can get on with my day. The preview pane on my email is fantastic for that. It drops in, at a glance I can see it. I don't have to open it, and yet I can slot it or move it, star it if I need to, or put a tag on it if it's something that I think I'll come back and address that once I'm finished the task I'm on.
Yeah,
It's got to just keep it clean is how I like it.
I totally agree with you. And look, for every team of people, you can create your own system and procedure around your colours and your tabs and your whatnots. But when you're a solopreneur and you really, you know, the inbox is your own, you can design whatever you like that suits you. You can even have a little experiment to see what works. But for visual people, about 40% of people are visual, and they really do need things like colour. And if they can't see it, it doesn't exist. So for them, filing things away means they forget about it automatically. So I love Joe's idea of allocating folders to manage where things are at and what order things are going to be done in. I'm a big fan of Steve Covey's time matrix, where you could maybe set up 4 folders, and you could have urgent and important. They are item number 1s. They're the things that you're kind of going to prioritize today to do. Yeah. And then number 2, it's urgent but not important. Then number 3 is not urgent but important. And then number 4 tasks are not urgent, not important. Now, those number 4 tasks are often able just to be deleted. But if you're deleting them, why don't you unsubscribe from it so you don't get it again? Or if you can't be bothered unsubscribing, just tell the computer that it's spam, so you'll never see it again. You just set up a rule to say that's spam, and then boom, it's in spam, and that's the end of that.
It's like a vacuum cleaner coming through, just cleaning it all up.
Yeah. All right, enough of email. You and I could talk about bloody email till the cows come home, because it is a huge time sucker, and it gives people overwhelm. This is one of the worst ones for overwhelm.
Number 1.
Every day you start your day by looking at that list, and it sends you into overwhelm, just like a dirty office, a messy office. You visually come in, you see your messy office, and straight away you're like, oh. Same with inbox. You get to your inbox, you look at it, it's all messy, you go, oh. So there's no way you're setting yourself up for success. There's no way. You're absolutely draining the energy from yourself unnecessarily. So tip number 1, tidy up your desk. Make it a pleasure to walk into that office and set it up for productivity, beauty, and it draws you in. Like my office draws me in. It keeps me here happily all day working around, and I make it beautiful to come into. It's a little messy in front of me right now, but the back bit's all organised. So I like things to be tidy, neat, and everything in piles and organised. Same with your inbox. So let's tidy up our offices, let's tidy up our inboxes, and I promise you, I guarantee you, you will have more well-being, more headspace, more relaxed, less stress, and 10 times more productivity. And we're just tipping the tip of the iceberg, aren't we, Joe? What's next?
We are. Next, look, the next thing on my list is diary. And so many people do not place the importance on diary management that I do. And it's simply through experience. I actually put a little bit of an infinity symbol around emails and diary, because I see the two connected. If your diary is not aligned, then you could have a completely wasted day. You could be running from one appointment to the other, not prepared for your appointment, and you are burning the candle with no results, because the diary dictates how your time is managed throughout your day. Simply from the minute you walk in the door to when you go home, if you have someone managing your diary for you with all the particulars that you require through your day, your life can be smooth flowing to do your business, not stressing with overwhelm of how do I, when do I. There's too many things. I can't get from that to that. I forgot to take that with me. I don't know where I'm going. I need to move that appointment. I don't have the particulars. to contact the party, change the documentation required for that. Whatever might be tied to that meeting is lost. It's very important to have diary management clean and organised.
So I know where you're coming from, Joe. You were a very high-end executive assistant in a very top job in government. And so your, not just that job, but your whole resume screams of a lot of high-end diary management work. So you've seen the good, the bad and the ugly. You've seen executives be managed very badly, and you've had to come in and sort that out. Now, to me, I see the diary as such a personal place. It really is letting you into my inner world, and I find it so very private. So a lot of executives might find it really hard to let go of the diary management. Joe, what can you do to make us feel, first of all, just at the beginning of this conversation, a little bit more comfortable about having someone else manage our diaries? I mean, God.
If they could think of it more in line with somebody scripting for you how your day is going to go for you, making it easy for you to move seamlessly from one task to another or a meeting to another, then you would appreciate that somebody overseeing your diary on your behalf in conjunction with you, because the key is to speak to the person who has the diary, find out their nuances, what they like, what they don't like, what time do you like to start your day, end your day, pop a lunch break in, the person's got to eat in between. But if it could be something where they come into their day and know that everything is organised in the background for them, they can do their job and seamlessly move from one spot to the other with everything they require. For example, it could be Bob, and Bob's the builder. He's got a meeting with someone about a product. If he knows his meeting's at 10 o'clock, he has a small plastic sleeve with the documentation in it regarding the meeting, the person that he's meeting with, what they're meeting about, what the outcome is that Bob is hoping to achieve from the meeting. He knows his travel times in the diary to get to and from the meeting. And when he comes back to the office, he can sit there calmly at the end of the meeting and assess how it went without any thought to the construction of the day of how he's moved through to that point. He knows his next appointment's not until then. He's got time now to deal with what he's looked at for the day. It allows him to get on with his day, but without having to think about the minutiae or the mechanics of all the bits and pieces to get through his day. People will start to realise after a while, wow, it was so easy. I go in on Monday morning, my diary's set up, I know that I've got a lunch break, my time of start, my time of finish. There's a couple of appointments there. I've got some debrief time to work with staff. I've got time, an hour's been blocked out for me to go through and address my important emails. I have time to think about the project I'm working on. There's a do not disturb on the door so I can focus on the project that I'm working on. Everything is calm and organised for me to do my job. That's the key to good diary management, is not to control you, but to allow you to do what you want to do in an orderly way so that you have time to do all the tasks that you wish.
Oh my gosh, yes. So diary management is a big thing that can be handled quite efficiently by a virtual assistant like Joe. So there's so much we can say about diary management, but it really is a customizable experience. And each executive is very unique in what they need, want, or how much control they are willing to give over. But the thing that I always used to hate executive assistants doing is back-to-back meetings. And what we found is they were not taking into account travel time, toilet time, feeding time, and they were setting up executives for failure and hurting their personal brand, because that executive, if you looked at the diary, it was designed for failure. They were never going to stay on time, never, because it had no walk time there from A to B, and it had no drive time, park time, traffic time, and nothing was built in, and it's just ridiculous. And so just be aware, guys, when you're out there, that your executive assistant or your virtual assistant, if they don't truly understand the realities of life, you are destroying your personal brand. Your diary management needs to be done. It's an art form. It really is an art form. So make sure you've got the right professional that completely understands the realities of the world and how to set you up for success, so that not only are you arriving on time, but you are arriving relaxed and focused with everything you need. And during the travel period, you've briefed yourself up, ready for the meeting, so that you're across things and you look like you know what you're talking about. Nothing worse than having no address, no contact name, no phone number if something goes wrong. I mean, it's just horrendous. So thanks, Joe, for that reminder, but I really think it's such a customizable thing. But if that's something you want to discuss with Joe, just to see what her recommendations would be on how to manage your diary and some of the nuances that you'd like to see, then that's a good one for the free discovery session, because Joe can really give you a good overview of what could happen for you to save you around 20-30% of your time in a year. What would that be worth?
Exactly. And there's tips and tricks to it. So yeah, it's a great, I'm really happy to talk to people about it, because they can set up some very simple little processes for the individual, whatever their case may be and however they like their day. Even if they want a day where they say, I'm just here to flow through the day, they've still got work to do, possible meetings, even internal meetings, HR catch-ups, or just meeting with staff on different projects. They need to have some structure so that their work time is utilised to the advantage of their business.
Yeah, and once you get into digital diary management, you can get quite sexy with the colour coding. You can get really, I strongly recommend you block out chunks of time. If you're really, really serious about productivity, and if you're really serious about being efficient and effective, then you need to chunk out time so that you can actually do the work. Meetings is one.
Exactly.
You've got to come back and implement all that stuff that you need to do from the meetings and from the conversations that you're having. So it's crazy to me how people just do meetings back to back all week, and then when are they going to have thinking time? When are they going to have implementation time? When are they going to have thought leadership time, development time, new products, engagement with staff, building relationship times? Where's all that? Nowhere to be seen. So really, let us have a look and let us add our experience to this experience and make sure that you're as efficient and effective as you can, and you have plenty of time to be the expert and the genius that you need to be, not the meetings queen of things. So let's just put that aside, because that's a very personal thing. But with one thing I'd like to add to that thought process is you need things in one place. The reason executives are overwhelmed is because quite often they'll have a digital calendar over there, a hard copy calendar over here, a to-do list over here, folders in their inboxes doing something else. That's a surefire way of getting overwhelmed. The minute I do that, or that I've accidentally done that to my life and I've got bitsy pieces of information all over the place, I know to stop and bring everything to the one place, the one hub. So pick a hub and have it all in one. I am a kinesthetic. So what that means is 40% of people are kinesthetic. Remember, 40% of people are visual. Kinesthetics are likely, very likely, to want to touch and feel their diary. If you take my diary away from me and make me go purely digital, I'm in all sorts of fear and I'm troubled and I'm overwhelmed. If you give me a diary, a hard copy diary, I feel safe and secure inside that paper and I can touch and feel it. So bear that in mind. If you are a kinesthetic, it's much more likely you're going to need a paper-based product. like me. And so I'll rule down halfway, and I'll have my actual appointments, my time-based appointments on one side of the page, and I'll have my to-do list on the other side of the page of what I'm going to achieve today. What's my urgent and importance, and what's my not urgent and importance if I can get to them. So that's the way I like to work. But in this day and age, and with people working remotely more and more, digital is going to be the go. And so, you know, your to-do list needs to be in one place, and your diary needs to be in one place. And if those two things can combine, I am in heaven. And so, yeah, try and give me a product where I've got it all in one place so I feel safe. It's psychological, guys. All this is psychological.
Yeah, even Katrina, even if you have an electronic diary and your physical one, just of a night when you go to log off, just sync them. Check in with your electronic, make sure that it matches up with your physical. Put some blocks in the electronic to coincide with what you've got in the physical, and you can still pull that off. Because I had two bosses I worked for at the same time. One was a physical diary, one was electronic, and I was electronic as well. So I found a way of just syncing his each night, putting blocks in his electronic to reflect what he'd put into his physical. So he was still happy with his turning of his pages and not the electronic version.
Yes, yes. And look, that to some people that might seem a little bit ineffective, but unfortunately kinesthetics require it. So don't see it as double handling, guys.
No.
It's a matter of being efficient and effective with your assistant and working within a bigger team, and people being able to see where you are and what you're doing and where the blocks are, so that they can book appointments with you, while at the same time the kinesthetic is satisfied and feels like they've got something to touch and feel safe around that being the case. So let's move on to the next subject matter for today.
Next one today, Katrina, is the in tray. Now, whether you're a small business person, solo, or small, micro, medium-sized business, even to large, the in tray. And the in tray, I mean, rather than just that nice little stack where you'll have in, out, and something in between. If people are constantly putting things in the in tray, even yourself, and it's not getting attention due to diary busy, inbox busy, phone ringing, assignments that you're addressing, it's very important to have the in tray address. The minute something drops in, a quick glance at it to again categorize it. Is it a high, medium, or low priority? It's just a physical version of what's coming in your inbox email. But it's usually something from internal. Somebody in the office needs something done or your attention to it. Again, a quick glance at it to make sure that you're addressing it. Overwhelm of an inbox could be that you're missing a critical deadline. Could be that you're missing a payment that should be an invoice that is meant to have been generated, sent out to purchase maybe materials to create whatever you're creating in your business. You could miss something very important. So the inbox has got to be addressed with the importance of quick glance at it, triage it again.
Yeah. So we're talking about paper management here. And hopefully over the last 10, 20 years, you guys have reduced the amount of paper flying around. But remember, kinesthetics love touching paper. So if you could see my desk at the moment, my paper, my inbox is like, I've got 3 desks, one each side of me, my desk in the middle and then a desk each side. And I've got paper from one end of that to the other. So my inbox is a huge, big area. So don't necessarily think that inboxes are always going to be neat and tidy in those little trays we used to have in the olden days. But you know, the thing to consider is how can we deal with paper so that it is neat and good for the mind? Because if I want to feel overwhelmed, then I'll have paper strewn across my desk. If I want to feel organized, then I have put my paper in piles, and better still, guys, I love folders, and I put things in folders so that on my desk should be a pile of folders. and you can create whatever system is right for you and your business. And Joe can certainly design a system that's right for you, so that what happens when a piece of paper comes, the idea is to touch it once and then action it at some point at the appropriate time, but not to have paper just piling up and not being touched, and also not having paper organized once it arrives in your world. Yeah. So let's not spend too much time on that, because hopefully you guys are dealing with your paper in an efficient manner, and the inbox is probably the biggest thing that will save you more time than paper days. But good point, Joe. What's the next thing on the list?
Next one on the list is invoicing and payments. So
money, the whole point of business.
Exactly. Not much use doing the job, getting it out on time, customer happy, and you haven't invoiced them. They're sitting there using your product or service that you've provided, and no, you're not invoicing them. They're not coming, knocking on the door or phoning going, how can I pay you? So a good system to be set up that works in conjunction with your business to correctly invoice into the correct details of your client, with your clear terms and conditions, and a follow-up system in place so that if the invoicing is not paid within the terms and conditions time frame, that you've got good protocols in place to gently follow that up to a medium level and to a higher level should there be no payment coming through, to be comfortable and to have a good system in place. Very important.
You bet. Gosh, this can save a lot of time in a year.
Yep.
And it can waste a lot of time in the year. A lot of small business people do not put invoicing and collecting money as the number one priority for what you're there to do. Second is delivery, actually delivering your product and service. So top priority, that is your urgent and important task, and anything you can invoice, you invoice straight away. Do not delay it for a week or two or a month. The other day I got a plumber in, and I got an invoice like a month later, and I thought to myself, oh man, that guy is not managing his cash flow properly. And trades guides, you can get, once he finished the job, he could have taken my money in a FPOS there and then. And I'm seeing so many tradies now that can just send me an invoice, I can pay, and they send the receipt all there and then in the moment. You're not going home to do your admin. That's retarded. It's ridiculous. So guys, we've really got to look at what systems are available to you today. I use a system called Invoice to Go, and that's cool. I can see when somebody's opened my invoice. They can pay on credit card. I mean, it's just terrific, and it's a couple of $100 a year, and boom, there's Bob's your uncle. The next thing I recommend is inside your website, like, for example, we love Wix, don't we, Joe? All
we
our
do.
clients' websites are built on Wix, and inside Wix is an invoicing system. So it doesn't cost you any more. So I'm going to stop using Invoice to Go, and I'm going to start using my invoicing inside of Wix now that that's available. Now, let's get into the accounting systems. So Xero, MyOb, a fabulous one that we've recently discovered, an Australian invention specially for freelancers and small business owners, solopreneur types, rounded.com.au. I am excited about this one. So check it out, guys. If you are just, coming to an accounting system, please do not research rounded.com.au, because they are very cool. So anywho, if you've got a system like that, then you are probably going to straight away save yourself about 40% of time kerfuffling about with payments and chasing and all of this sort of stuff. It'll send you alerts and blah, blah, blah. So an automated system is what Joe and I are recommending for you guys.
Yep.
But it doesn't need to be expensive, and it doesn't need to be complex. So if you are a very micro business and really don't like technology, then I do recommend just invoicing in your website or something like Invoice to Go. Very simple. If you want something completely free, there is the Wave app. .com, but that is not an Australian system. So if you have staff, I don't recommend it because the payroll for Australian staffers, it won't handle it. You'll need something that covers the Australian laws and regulations. So that aside, let's not get too complicated, but just know there is so much out there that can support you, and today's technology is amazing. Let us implement a system for you. So call Joe and have your free discovery session, and you can chat around what you've got now, what's working, what doesn't work, what you'd like to see, or just do a review or an audit on what's available these days.
Yeah, because let's face it, you're not working for free. So important to get your invoicing automatically sent out and follow-ups on any unpaid invoices to ensure that your money, your revenue is coming in. So definitely.
Thank you for joining us for the first episode of Fiddly Things. Hopefully you've got about 3 great takeaways that you can either go off and implement yourself, or you want to discuss with Joe on your free discovery session. So we'll see you next time in episode 2. Bye for now. Thanks for joining us, Joe.
Thanks, Katrina. Thank you.